Hey everybody, Tag with Life Done Free. Hey, today I've got a very special video for you. We're going to be joined by somebody who I respect an immense amount, has had a very successful career, spent many years as an engineer and as a high level engineer, worked for a big company, played a big role, and ended up being forced to go through some of the things that I went through. I've always said from the beginning, the purpose of the Life Done Free channel isn't to highlight my homestead or to, highlight the things we're doing, although we're going to do plenty of that. The real mission of it is to bring together homesteads and bring together people to tell their story. And so in the first interview that I will do, we're going to bring in, again, a good buddy of mine and somebody that I respect a lot. So I hope you stay tuned and I hope you get something out of it. Yep. Hey, everybody, this is Tag from Life Done Free. And like I promised, I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Mo. Mo is like I said, an engineer. And, I can't tell you how neat it is to have, that type of resource around. I've had a lot of questions over the years of how do I do this or how do I do this? And this right here is the guy that I always call. I've told him many a times he should have a YouTube channel, but he don't want to. And I don't know about you or how many of you would be interested in a homesteading engineer, but I think that'd be pretty cool, pretty good. But without further ado, again, this is Mo. And so Mo, before we go into homesteading and we go into the life and all of those kind of things, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what you did professionally, let's say a year ago.
Well, a year ago, I was an engineer. So actually, I still am certified, registered in 4 states. And I've done a lot of things throughout my career. When I started, when I went out of school, I did a lot with commercial work. And then later on, I moved into more industrial things. And so I've kind of bounced around a little bit. But I've done a lot with biotech and done some things with the federal government, those kind of things. That's basically a year ago. Is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So you had this big high profile career, and I know you worked on a lot of great things that we won't talk about here, but things that have amazed me over the years, but what caused you to walk away?
Well, I wasn't given too much choice, actually. They wanted to know our status on the jab, and I pretty much, they gave me 2.5 days to make a decision after I just come back from my family, learning a lot of them had just lost their jobs over it. And I wanted to know more information. I wanted them to clarify what they meant. And they were pretty much unwilling to do that. So, and I was unwilling to change my position. So we decided to part ways is probably the wrong word. They fired me.
Yeah. One of the things that, Mo, I've always respected you for, and, especially through, this last year, as you've gone through these things is, your willingness to take a stand. So when you did take that stand, why were you willing to give up this career of all of these years over a principle of, your medical records are none of their, business?
Well, yeah, we've talked about this before, but it's like at some point you got to stand on grounds principle. There's I don't know. I read a lot of philosophy. I believe in Ralph Emerson's self-reliance, and basically to your own heart be true, and I didn't really see an option. And if you don't hold a principle, then I think it gets into the rest of your life. It pollutes your ability to work proper and to do your day to day. You got to be 100% when you work. So that's basically, yeah.
Well, Mo, and I've told you this before, all of us have sacrificed, and there's a lot of us around us, and I'll continue to do interviews of people who had to sacrifice for these kind of things, but Mo sacrificed a lot. My case was a little bit different. I had, different resources, and my homestead was 3/4 built. I had a lot of infrastructure in, I had a lot of those things, and you had to give up a lot to pull this off. So once you chose freedom, once that moment came for you, I know that, and I know because I talked to you about every day as we went through it, but what were some of the challenges that you went through in the days, just, right after, I guess the days and months right after all this happened?
So, well, yeah, the thing is right after, there was a little process here. It took a little while for, for a while, uh, things weren't required, and then it went into things were required, went from requirement to a mandate. So I had some time to think about what was going on. I've been saving money. There's some things in the company. The company's been very much so, the company I work for was very much so leaning one side of the aisle politically. And so I had a feeling that there was going to be problems in the future. And so so with that, you start saving money and looking at what you can do. And so, yeah, some of that was pre-planned. And quite frankly, that's kind of the lifestyle I was in. I kind of just adjusted things a little bit. And I've been working on building a cabin. It was during COVID, so been working on building a cabin, and I kind of sped that up a little bit.
Yeah, now I don't think you give yourself enough credit, Mo. You and I talked a lot during those days. And, I know that you were sitting down and you were writing out all your retirement, how long it would take, how much money it would take,
Yeah.
how many, things of ramen you could afford per week or whatever it was, as you went through, and to talk about your stress level through all that.
Yeah, my stress level was high. I mean, it was go to the doctor high. So, yeah, you just because, you don't know if you're going to have a job. I love being an engineer. I like doing the math. I like the technical stuff. I always have. And so I like solving. To me, it's like a Sudoku puzzle. I like doing it. So having someone with the ability to take that away from me because of something that simple was rough. But yeah, and the other side is I'm not that special as far as like finances go. I mean, yeah, I saved some back, and maybe a little better than some people, but yeah, I'm it's like, okay, well, this is basically early retirement for me. So, well, how much money do you need to retire? And that kind of played into it. And I started looking at that. I have a mom that's getting older, and I kind of looked at what the system does to people who have money, which is a whole nother subject. But yeah, so I kind of backed off on what I need, and see if I could actually survive with that. Quite frankly, even if I wouldn't have, I still would have made the decisions. I just would have done it differently. So
yeah. So when you were going through it, did you feel disposable? I mean, did you feel kind of thrown away?
I would say when I first started this, I have specialized skills that are kind of unique, especially in this world, right? Biotech, right? I design clean rooms. I do things with nuclear facilities. Any of that sound like it'd be useful right now?
Yeah.
I've done things with the federal government. I worked for them for many years, and did stuff in host nations. So that might be a useful thing to have or be used now too. And yeah, you'd think with someone with a skill set like that, something that they may want to spend a little bit of time at work, where someone would want to spend a little bit of time to make sure they keep their employees. But that's not really what happened. So
yeah, Mo, for me, I felt super disposable.
Yeah.
I had come to a company before it was a company. We worked hard, raised lots of money, built distribution channels, bought companies all over the country. And for them to be able to just walk away from it and say, hey, for, whatever the political reason was or whatever it is, your services are no longer needed. I had some, anger in my heart I had to deal with for a little bit. And so how you holding up on that front? You have anger in your heart?
It doesn't feel great. And so, yeah, here's the thing. I could get another job in a heartbeat if I wanted to. And, but the problem is I don't see the problems that I have in the company I worked for before. The problems would translate to most companies I would go work for. in the future. I mean, it's big company style problems, and they're not, you leave one, you're going to get it in the other. And I'm sure you probably were thinking the same thing for you. So that's, I had that, with that, it's like, well, that it's like, so now you're not just taking a job, you're taking a career,
right?
And it's a career shift. But you know, things happen to people, and when a change like that happens, there's a good chance something good will come out of it. You just don't see it at the time.
Yeah, amen.
And so that's and this will allow me to have a little bit more control over my life, which I'd given up a lot of control to them for my own satisfaction and things of that nature. So
yeah, you know, Mo, for years you and I talked about you living that simpler life, and, you know, moving to that cabin and moving into the woods and doing all of those things. And so is there part of you that's thankful that it happened this way, or is there part of you that looks at it and says, hey, you know what, this was hard right here, but maybe I'm actually kind of blessed, maybe this is the right way?
Well, I had been building this place prior to these things happening. I hadn't felt so great about just how things are going, you know, years ago, but this right here gave me an opportunity to rip the Band-Aid off. And so that was a good thing, right? A lot of the stuff, you know, it took, you know, there's months of times just in moving, you know, being single, you know, I had a house from a previous marriage many years ago. And so the house was way bigger than I needed. And so just the process of getting all that done, it would have been slow, and I don't, you know, I would have procrastinated and all that. But, you know, you sell a house, you got a timeline, right? People are going to come in your house on this date, so it better be nice to look. And you know, you need, you know, the contract signed this date, you closing, so you better be out. So yeah, I got all that. That set me a schedule. So that was some of the good that's come out of it. And also, I tell you, my work is a stressful place, or, you know, there's a lot of stress. I had 3 months worth of backlog when I left. So you can imagine the stress that comes with that, doing assignments like that. So that kind of like smoothed out, which is nice.
Yeah, you know, I've always said that, you know, one of the big advantages that I have, you know, living here on the homestead is my beautiful wife. You know, not only does she encourage me every day, and she also pushes me. You know, she also is my rock if I have a bad day. You know, plus she picks up a huge percentage of the workload around the farm, you know, whether it's, you know, taking care of chickens, the garden, whatever it is. So what kind of challenges do you have trying to do all this single?
Well, it's about the reverse of what you just said. So yeah, I wish I had a bee. I've been waiting for her to come over and do my dishes, but she's not come over and do my dishes. So
I'll continue to remind her.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's a pile of laundry that's growing too.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, so well, there's a couple of things. I mean, just generally, Dick Prenicky is a guy who went to Alaska. He went by himself about middle age, and but yeah, it's Alaska, right? It's a little bit more perilous, and you know, it's challenging. And when he went there, he says that he had to be a little bit more careful, because, you know, there ain't no one there going to pick him up. It's it when you screw up sometimes. So that is a serious thing. I follow safety very seriously, more than I, you know, that's one of the things that I learned from work is to work safe. And I've always followed those, even in my personal life. So, you know, the safety glasses go on when I need it. And so does hearing protection and stuff, you know, things that you just, yeah. So I would have, you know, my 20-year-old self would not have done that. So the other is, you know, when you're carrying a board, when you're putting stuff up or something like that, it's always nice to have someone on the other side. You know this, and yeah, it's two people. 1 + 1 in this case does not equal 2. It equals more than 2. You can get a lot more work done than each individual could do by themselves. So I lose some efficiency in that. But when I'm done, if it's messed up, I complain just to myself.
Yeah.
So,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. We just had a high level engineer tell us that 1 + 1 is not 2. Okay, so I don't know if you'll ever see that anywhere else in the world, but we just heard it firsthand. So Mo, back to that topic just a little bit. So what's harder, the physical side of homesteading alone or the mental side?
So I would say the mental side. We talk often. Actually, I've relied on you several times. There's just some days you wake up and it's like, why am I doing this? I'm by myself. No one's pushing you to get something done. So it didn't have to get done. What's going to be, you do beat up on yourself, little as time goes. But I think, and it can be lonely. So, you're out there doing things. So you have to recognize those early and build yourself a structure around that, trying to figure out what you can do to minimize some of that. So friends to call, you have to think about it. So
yeah, there's maybe an advantage for you though too, being single. I mean, when my wife talks to me about I need you to go do this, I always tell her, you don't have to remind me every 6 months, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she would be rolling her eyes right now if
but that little voice happens in your head.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You're right. So it's even if the other person isn't there, you're still walking past the dirty laundry and you're like, yeah, I should get to that. So you can just ignore that little voice for at least a temporary.
Yeah.
Whereas you might not have that opportunity as much.
Yeah. Well, Mo, I want you to know, bud, that I respect you an immense amount, and you took a stand that very few people have the courage to stand, and I can say that because I took the stand, and and I know we know some others that do it, but you've gained a huge amount of respect from me. So now that everybody knows the story, Mo's been working towards self-sufficiency for a long time. Like I said, we've been friends a long time, and I'm just curious, do you look at that lifestyle any different now, living on land in the woods and a cabin, all of the well water, all the things that you do you look at differently versus living in the urban area in a big 4,000 square foot home in Richville on the corner lot, keeping up with the Jones? How do you view it, self-sufficiency, different today than you did back then?
Well, I'm not a fan of the cities anymore. So unless I liked the country life a lot better. And I would, there was a difference because you'd have to have a place to go to. And quite frankly, just with the amount of stuff that you're trying to move from one place to the other place is overwhelming. I made 26 trips with my truck and a trailer to go back and forth. Can you imagine doing that under duress?
Yeah,
that would not be fun. And the other thing is, where are you going to take your stuff to? That's another, first you're going to have to pare down if you do something like that. And then where are you going to take your stuff to? You're going to just set it on the ground outside, or so like I use some shipping containers and things to carry some things back and forth, and just having to clear out, you have to move everything, or you have to get everything out, have to deal with things you own. So the other is some stuff requires conditioning of some form, right? You don't want to necessarily leave food out your front porch when right. It could freeze, or you can follow that through. There's a lot of things you have that people have in their basement they don't understand. If you can move into a place that has no basement or a smaller basement, you got to think about that.
Yeah, this is interesting. You just brought up something that I had not considered. But so, what's your view on bugging out now? Because now you've gone through, living in the urban, the city, the urban areas, having things, thinking about bugging out and all of that, to now, where you're at today. How's your view changed on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be in for a rude awakening. So if they do, do that, which I'm not saying is not possible. I mean, you can do that, but I think your lifestyle is going to be a radical shift from where you were. If you went to do something like that, you put yourself back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Because you just have you're not taking your electricity with you. Most likely you're not taking, there's other things that you have in your house that you just can't put in a pack and take with you. There's a Thoreau, David Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau. He moved to a cabin in the woods, and he went to a very simple lifestyle. He's, I think, one of the first conservatives, conservationists, not conservative. He went to a real modest lifestyle to do that, and even he went, I think, into town often. So still surrounded with some version of other items. So anyways, no, that's I think almost people would have to come down to a level of bushcraft if they moved out of the city, assuming they're not going to grandma's place, right? If you're going to grandma's place, or you already have a place that's already up and running, then yeah, you'll be okay, or it'll be nowhere near as rough.
Yeah. So you want to just take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about, I know you don't like this word, so, feel free to slap me, but, talk a little bit about your homestead.
Homestead. So yeah, word homestead. So you have to understand, it is the 11th, and my closing date on my house was the 1st. So I've been there a grand total of 11 days fully. Actually, it's been a little longer because I got the move done a little faster, but there's a lot of, homestead would mean I have a garden, which I have seeds in packages, not a garden yet. And I know what the effort involved in that is. I did just buy a tractor, and I bought fencing and things like that. So I'm heading that way. But I still got lots and lots of challenges there. So homesteading, I do it. My cabin is fully functional. I got, shower, toilet, and all that, place to sleep and a way to heat, all those things. But yeah, I need to build out the homesteading infrastructure. So
yeah. A couple years ago, Mo went and purchased a Pioneer Princess stove, and it's really been a topic of fun for me and him. He always calls me and says, hey, Tag, when are you going to drop the skid loader off? And I always tell him, you had an opportunity to bring me your stove years ago, and you failed to do it. But, and you learning to cook on that stove has been a challenge for you as well, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. This is one of the things that we talked about. Just moving somewhere, expecting everything to work without some trial and error ain't easy. All right, and this is a new structure, and I did all the work pretty much myself, all the internal stuff, insulation, and all that. You just never know what's going to go wrong until you actually go and do it. And so one of the things, my stove was backfiring into the cabin. It was smoking up the cabin, and trying to figure out, okay, which bell and whistle do I turn and to make this thing function. And it turned out I needed to put some more stack on, and I need to do something. My house is pretty tight, so I have to vent the place a little by opening windows and stuff to do it. But the thing is I had to learn that, and it's better to learn it today than under duress. And I learned that. I learned some of those lessons before this happened. So that stove and the thing weighed. It took 4 people to get it there, so I couldn't put it over my shoulder. Otherwise, I would have brought it out here and just killed it.
Yeah. It's been a good joke, for Mo and I, over the last few years. We've joked about that stove many a times, but Mo, we've talked about your story, a lot to this. And, I was on talking to Danny from Deep South Homestead, I don't know, a week ago or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago. And he brought up a really interesting point. And and I'd always known the phrase, but now since talking to him, I kind of look at it a little bit different. But, Danny said freedom's expensive. And, I don't think there's, many people in this world that understand how expensive freedom is, other than those who are obviously dying for it. But in the homestead world, people who understand how expensive freedom is more than you. You want to comment on the cost of freedom?
Well, actually, expensive, but it's healing. So, it focuses in on what's important. And so this kind of lifestyle is important to me. If I would have, if I would have just chose to go with the flow and all that, I mean, that tears at your soul. That's like the spark of your life going out. So why isn't that expensive? Because I see that very expensive.
Yeah.
So being able to wake up the next day and look in the mirror and be happy with yourself, with no regret or less regret, is the only way I know how to live.
Mo, I love you for this. You and I have very differing opinions on a lot of things. And, you and I have talked two sides of an argument a million times, in our relationship. And
someone's got to be wrong.
Well, of course. And usually it's me. Usually it's me. But as Danny talked about how freedom is expensive, you kind of talk about how slavery is more expensive.
Yeah.
And I think that's really an interesting point that I'll have to ponder, and maybe we'll even, maybe I'll do a video about that a little bit. But I really like that.
Well, think about that. I mean, you're going to end up living a life stuck in a cube or wherever, dealing with people that you no longer want to deal with, and making their lives better at your expense. And it's I don't know. You have this. I don't know, another book I like is Ayn Rand, is Atlas Shrugged book. And, pretty soon it's all these people with pull are running your life. And the people who are the producers just end up being saddled and strangled, their creativity taken away from them. And it's not a great way to live. And, you're giving that up. You only got so much time in this world. So,
Danny and I talked about about stroke, which is what I call that, that the more stroke you remove out of your life, the more options you have, and those options allow you to withstand, whatever's in front of us, so much better. But, you want to comment on that?
Well, that's one of the differences is because I've tried to live a self-sufficient style more. I've felt a need to be self-reliant. We all kind of go through a oh crap moment. Mine happened in about 2010 when the housing market fell, and my finances turned out, I went through a divorce and I had to buy my house for myself. And that, this during the housing crisis, and it turned out to be a real challenge to make that happen. I made it happen, and I learned my lesson. So, and I applied the lesson of finances to it's like, well, that happened in my financial life, but it also could happen in these other areas. And so, self-reliance is more than just the dollars, it's other things. So, and so I attacked not just that, I attacked other areas.
Yeah. Back to the homestead real quick. So what kind of plans you got for this year? What you got in front of you?
So what I got in front of me, an auction.
Everything? Yeah.
I'm going to an auction. Yeah, I want to fill your truck up. That's what I want to do. I want to fill your truck.
Mo and I are in the same room, just on different sides of the room. But Mo and I are going to attend a farm auction tomorrow, which is what brought us together today.
Yeah.
But beyond the auction, Mo, thinking a little further than tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm assuming you have some. You're a freaking engineer, dude. Yeah. You have some kind of plan, right? Going out a little bit.
So, well, I've actually gave myself a little bit of time to heal from all this, and we talked about. So I want to think a little bit on where I'm heading. Of course, I'm already making plans today.
Mhm.
So I have 18 acres, and 11 of it was a farmable field, or 10 was a farmable field. And so I talked to the farmer, and now that land's mine, which is scary, by the way. I mean, it's not, it's like I got 10 acres to deal with. That was a field, and you just can't let that sit.
Yeah.
So you got to do something with it, or yeah, it's going to go back to being woods. So yeah, so I working on how to maintain 10 acres. So yeah, and so I working on fencing, things like that. I've already started buying that, getting that in. I now have a tractor, so we're looking at getting ways to cut the field, and other things. There'll be probably some animals, need cats and dogs. I don't think people understand that cats and dogs. I'm starting to think that they're almost a requirement. At least one of them is, because if you want to keep the rat population down,
Yeah.
you need to have them. And yeah, they attacked my. I had mice attack my my new truck, which crawled in and had babies on my air filter in my truck. Yeah. So I didn't know they did that with daily drivers, but I thought they did that with things in the barn. But nope, not mine. I guess they like Toyotas. Anyways, yeah. So I'll be working towards getting some farm animals to.
Yeah. Well, and Mo, you talk about maintaining 10 acres, but it's really much more than that, because you have, an equal amount of land, that's full of woods and down trees and all of those kind of things, which are going to take some work as well.
Yes, I have. Yeah, that's one of the things I got enough wood to stock my fire for quite a while. Just with the down trees that are there. So it's going to be a lot of it clean up, and I'm likely heading to get some goats to help with the cleanup.
Yeah.
Things like that. And I'm trying to understand what people in the area do. I have some neighbors who are just awesome people, and they're kind of educating me, or giving me some of their experiences, and so I can apply some of that. Maybe not make those mistakes again, but make my own. But yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Yeah. Well, Mo, this is getting going on a little bit, but so before we go, let's talk a little bit about current affairs. You and I do this a lot on, we're talking on the phone and those kind of things. So, with all the turmoil going on overseas, have you changed any of your plans?
Well, I feel more comfortable being out of the cities.
Yeah.
So, my plans, this actually works well for me, that I've already, I've done this faster now, and I would have worried more if I was if I still had my other house. And the thing is there was a lot of money in equity in that house. And if the markets went down, it would took out a lot of things, and now I'm debt free.
Yeah. So to talk about that, how does that feel? How does it feel to be debt free? How does it feel to be mortgage free?
Yes, it feels. It feels real good. So I worked on that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think when I went into debt, and it's probably student loans when it, probably at 18, I strapped that on my back, and I carried that around until recently. Of course, even before I sold the house, my debt was it was getting way down there. So so I've lost my credit cards and things like that a long time ago. But I always carried a mortgage.
Yeah, it's just so amazing to be debt free. I remember when me and my wife could look at each other for the first time and say, hey, we don't owe anybody anything. I know that's a little bit short-sighted, because you still owe taxes and you still owe some of those other things, but generally that was a pretty nice thing. One of the things, Mo, that I've learned through, whether it be through COVID or whether it be through the stuff that's going on overseas, or whatever it is, when you're dependent upon everyone to provide everything for you. I mean, look at what's going on in Ukraine today, and they're shutting off credit cards and totally just shutting things down, and you don't have any control. And, it's really woken me up a little bit to that we're headed down the right path. What do you think, Mo?
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about the Canadian truckers too.
Right.
So they or even Putin,
Yeah.
if you wanted to, the ability to push on an individual of whatever stature they choose is grown. It's getting more. It's getting more and more possible today. Whereas in the past, it'd been very hard to take all that kind of access away from someone. That with the truckers and it's the one I think about, because it's just, those are more like common man people that didn't really aren't in a war. They're not necessarily fighting for the land, which I'm with. I'm hoping what's going over in Ukraine gets resolved with the least amount of bloodshed. But if you think about these truckers it's like the government's no longer believe. It's like, well, if we take all these things away from you, it's like you cease to exist. And these people are still people. They're still going to be there tomorrow. And I don't understand it, because you look at some of the other things, the council culture here. It's like, no, you counsel someone, they don't like disappear, or the other controversies here with the masks or whatever. And the people don't disappear. They still, it's challenging because it's almost like they're forming a second society. The more independent you are from those things, the more you can make your own decisions, and you can say what you really feel, and not be pushed into saying what they tell you that you need to say. And,
Well, Mo, it's been great talking tonight, and I've got one final question for you. And I think maybe the most powerful question of all of it, which is, if there's somebody out there who's going through some of those things like what you went through, and who is challenged by a mortgage, and what do we do next, and how do I take a stand, and this just doesn't feel right, or someone who's wants to go live freer and wants to live more self-sufficient, what advice would you give somebody who's at the beginning of that journey?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a long question. You could spend quite a while on the say the technical side of how to make all that happen. But on the emotional side, it's like, well, think about the other way. What if you didn't do it? You're going to stay. Yeah. What's going to happen to your mental state? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to what could happen to how your family is living, and how are your kids going to be when they grow up? It's, if you think about the other side, it makes a decision a little more easier to think, okay, well, let's buckle up and use that as a motivation to start your way out of being owned by this structure that's being set up around you.
Yeah. You know what, Danny, if you're watching out there from Deep South, one thing I wanted to say to you is that, like Mo says, freedom's cheaper than slavery. And so I think that's, pretty interesting. I'm going to add that to, my thought process as you and I spoke about that. But anyway, Mo, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for, sharing your story. And there's many people like you that are out there who are forced to deal with these kinds of issues, every single day. So I'll give you the final say. Anything you want to say before we go?
Everyone needs to stay positive, and work towards their end, what they're trying to do, and just think about both sides of where you'll be if you don't, and where you'll be if you do, and you just hold the line.
Yeah, hold the line. Yeah, love that. All right, everybody. Well, You know, that's Mo. I'm Tag. This is Life Done Free. And just like Mo said, hold the line, don't give an inch, and we'll live to fight another day. So until next time, Mo, thank you. Tag out.
See.